Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the Pursue You podcast. I'm so excited to be back with you. This is your host, Kaylandlamar, and I cannot wait to talk with you about today's topic. But before we do that, I want to remind you that Pursue You podcast is a place that is a safe space for you. This is where you come if you are actively in pursuit of everything that God has in store for you. Together, we are in pursuit because we know that we are barely skimming the surface of this thing called life, and we are committed to growing and learning. I'm looking forward to growing and learning with you. Progress is greater than perfection. It's not about getting it right every time, but it's about showing up authentically and being a light. So that brings us to our topic for today, self-love. So, self-love, you know, as I was preparing for this episode and just really thinking about the word self-love and what it really means, I was thinking about the fact that so many people travel the world. So many people go through the motions, have successful jobs, and on the outside may look like they have it all together. But a lot of people struggle with truly loving themselves, right? Sometimes it seems like it's easier to love others. We're able to look past mistakes that other people may make. We seem to look past difficult situations that we may go through with other people, but it seems like it's just so much easier to love others than it is to love ourselves. And I really believe that that is a trick of the enemy. I believe that as we continue to navigate this thing called life, the only way to truly wholeheartedly love others is to first love yourself. Not that fake love, not that pretending like we got it all together kind of love, but that real, genuine, authentic love. When you're able to love yourself in spite of your flaws, when you're able to love yourself no matter how many mistakes you've made, when you're able to forgive yourself and not beat yourself up about things that you may have done or wish you could have done differently, or things that maybe, happened a long, long time ago or even happened yesterday. So as we talk about this, I do want to recognize this is a tough conversation. This is a real candid conversation. This is a conversation that might make you feel a little uncomfortable, but I want to remind you that on the other side of discomfort is growth, right? So as we grow together, learn together, process all these things, just because it might feel a little uncomfortable or it may make you kind of check yourself, doesn't mean that it's impossible, right? All things are possible through Christ. So if this is something that you are really struggling with, if this is something that you genuinely want to do better with, especially going into a new year or my new year doesn't always start in January. My new year most of the time starts with my birthday, right? I think about, which is actually halfway through the year. I think about just shifting and shaking just a little bit differently, focusing on certain things. So if this is one of your things for 2025 or your things for just life in general, I encourage you to listen up, dig deeper, and ask yourself those difficult questions that's gonna help propel you into your next. So self-love is a state of appreciation for oneself that grows from actions that support our physical, psychological, and spiritual growth. It also means that you have a very high regard of your own personal well-being and happiness, and that you don't mind taking care of your needs first and you don't sacrifice your well being in order to please others. Self love means not settling for less than what you deserve. So I want to sit there for just a minute and in thinking about the overall definition of self love and just the nuances in that, right? So oftentimes people really feel like it's selfish to put yourself first because we have so many different roles and responsibilities are that are on our plate. We have so many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis and that require you to show up in a way that is solid, in a way that is in keeping others in mind or keeping others at the front of your mind. So I am in no way saying that you should not prioritize community, that you should not prioritize motherhood or being a caregiver or any other role that may be more so aligned with giving of yourself. I am not saying that you should not serve others, be a servant, whether that's in your job, whether that's through your church or your ministry. So I really want to make sure that that is very plain and clear. What I would like to pose to you is that two things can coexist at the same time. It's not them or you. It's not giving of yourself or lacking taking care of yourself, prioritizing yourself, loving yourself, right? You should love and care for yourself in order to be able to really show up at 100% for those that are connected to you, right? And so, one of my analogies that I always use is a phone, right? So, I want you to think about how often we go through life with our phone battery not at 100%, but we're still, going through day to day tasks, right? We might be scrolling on TikTok or um, texting and calling and, doing the things that phones can do. But we normally don't pay attention to our phone unless it needs to be charged, right? Then when it needs to be charged, we put our phones in power saver mode and we try to make it last as long as possible until we finally get to the source that we need, the power source that we need, right? And so when we finally plug it up, sometimes we might wait to the very, very last minute. Sometimes we don't really have a choice because we're looking for a charger, don't have a charger. Sometimes we are just going so much and not even paying attention that it might just die right in the middle of us talking on the phone or right in the middle of us sending a text, right? And so I want you to know that your self love journey does not have to be the same as it is with your cell phone journey, right? The love hate relationship we have with the battery. What I implore you to do is shift from having to go all the way down to zero before you connect to some type of power source. What I really wish and I hope for every single person that hears this is that you do things throughout your day to recharge. You do things throughout your day to make you smile, to bring you joy, to bring a state of nourishment that is necessary. Because when you show up at 100%, when you show up feeling loved and cared for and supported by yourself, that means no one can come in and disturb that peace. That means that, yeah, things might happen, but you're going to be intentional about showing up for yourself be intentional about pouring into yourself. And that means your worth is not in what others perceive of you, it's not in what others may even project onto you. You're not searching for validation in other places. It means that you truly find your validation in self, right? And so self love can mean a lot to different people, right? Because we all have so many different ways that we do take care of ourselves. We have different ways that we show up for ourselves because everybody is unique. So what might look like a self-love activity for me might not necessarily look like a self-love activity for you. So I just encourage you to just dig deep into what does it look like for me to show up for myself, to love myself, to show myself love. How can I do that consistently? And I want to share with you a quote, and it says, self love is not something you acquire, it's always been there, it never left, hidden under the identification with the thoughts in your mind. It's been waiting for you to shed the layers and return back home. The greatest love story ever told, yours. And that quote is from Eva Berenice, and it really shifted my thinking around self-love. When I heard this, I was thinking about the fact that self-love, this is the Pursue You podcast, right? And so I was more so thinking around self-love being something that you're pursuing, that you're going to try to get, right? But self-love is more so something that is within you already, that you've kind of covered up, that you have been focusing your attention in so many other places that you forget about. It is the space where you are the most comfortable, the most at home with yourself that you can be. And it is a space that is sacred. And I do feel like the enemy is really cunning. He makes self love seem unattainable. He makes it seem like it's bad for you, right? He makes it seem like if you're really prioritizing yourself all the time, if you're really loving yourself for real, that's like a negative thing. But let's be honest, the reason that he attacks it so much is because he knows that if we really tapped into and unlocked the door of self-love, if we truly peeled back all those layers and got to the most core, authentic, beautiful parts of ourselves, then we would be unstoppable. And I think about the fact that we are all beautifully and wonderfully made just as we are, without the titles, without the success stories, without the things that we may be chasing after, the white picket fence and the 4-bedroom house and the 2.5 kids and the dog. We are enough. And so to me, self-love is recognizing your enoughness at its most core and beautiful point. Not because you are a friend to so many, not because you are doing so many things, getting so many things done, winning so many awards. Self-love is the greatest love story ever told. It's your love story. Who you are, how you show up as who you are. And so I want to share with you some signs that, like, how do I know I lack self-love, or how do I know that I'm kind of struggling with this? I kind of think this is what I'm struggling with. It's been on my radar, but I'm not really sure. So some signs that you lack self-love. The first sign, you move in a way that is centered around perfectionism and fear of failure. And I think a lot of us do this because we don't realize who we are. We haven't tapped into loving ourselves, even though we might not be perfect. We think that the only way to truly be able to love ourselves the way we should is by earning that, by doing certain things in a way that's 100% perfect all the time, showing up at 100% perfect all the time. And I want to go back to that phone battery, right? When I was saying 100%, I'm not saying 100% as in getting it right all the time. I'm saying 100% self-love energy, right? My energy, my cup is full. My battery is at maximum capacity because I am pouring into that. I'm plugging up to a power source, right? And so fear of failure definitely is the root of so many different things, and we don't really talk about it nearly enough. We do know that fear is something that the enemy uses as a tactic to stop us from reaching our fullest potential. And having the fear of failure stops us and paralyzes us and keeps us from even trying new things or doing things differently or shifting into a different headspace. And we kind of think, I'm just going to be complacent and stay right here because it's easier, or because I know I'm good here. Over there is kind of scary because I'm really uncertain and unsure of what's going to show up, how it's going to manifest, right? And so I am here to encourage you. If you are operating in this life and you are centering perfectionism, trying to get it right all the time, I want to remind you that the only person that walked this earth and got it right all the time is Christ. And while we should be Christ-like, we should also reverence him in realizing and recognizing that he did that because he can. He did that because that is how good and how amazing he is. Putting yourself and that amount of pressure on yourself is not an act of love. It is an act of, really, it's an act of defeat. You can never do it, right? It's not attainable. You're setting an unattainable, unrealistic goal, and putting that much pressure on yourself can really harm you in so many ways. Another sign that you lack self-love is if you just avoid caring for yourself, you neglect your personal needs because you're so focused on other folks. And again, I'm not saying that there's not going to be seasons where you have to kind of push that to the side, right? Mothers of newborns or caregivers, you know, different types of jobs. Like, I do believe that there are certain seasons that you have to be mindful of in your life, and the times where you have to kind of put yourself to the side. But if you find yourself just on a typical average day during a regular time of the year, nothing crazy's happening, nothing that, not a life altering situation is happening, then I really encourage you to dig deeper with this self love thing, because avoiding caring for yourselves, avoiding prioritizing your needs, that is a key sign, a key indicator that you're not in a space where your self love is quite where it needs to be, right? So sit with yourself, think about it. Like, this is my average, typical act. This is what I do, this is what I don't do, and just be honest about it. Because again, when you're honest about it, you're able to truly transition into where you are versus where you want to be. Another sign that you lack self love is you tolerate craziness in your life. You tolerate, and I keep saying craziness, you tolerate very toxic behavior from other people. You have a difficult time setting boundaries or saying no. You're overcommitting yourself, comparing yourself, or allowing others to compare themselves to you. You're talking negative to yourself, constantly critiquing and um, doing like the overboard self criticism of yourself, right? And so those things and how you treat yourself and how you show up for yourself, they're not where they need to be. They're not an act of love for you. When you're constantly accepting other people's negative behaviors towards you, that means your self-worth is not where it needs to be, which means your self-love is not where you need it to be. Because if you love yourself, then you know your worth. And if you know your worth, then you show your worth. You walk in a way that is, hey, this is who I am and this is how I show up. And if you love me, then there's certain ways that you will treat me, right? There's certain ways that you'll treat yourself. There's certain ways that you'll allow yourself to show up. There's certain things you won't do. You won't talk negatively about yourself. You won't always be critiquing yourself, leading back to that focusing on perfectionism, right? And so you'll work towards setting healthy boundaries. I really encourage you, if you're not a boundary setter, if you need support with that, please, 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 you need to set up an appointment with me because I love helping others implement healthy boundaries in their lives. As a personal development coach, that is definitely one of my favorite things to do because I think a lot of people just don't tap into boundary setting because they don't think that it's possible. But I'm here to tell you, just because you've done a thing for a long time, just because you've accepted certain treatment for a long time, just because you have not firmly stated your no, does not mean that that is in control of you. It doesn't mean it can't change. You can change. You can shift. You deserve to change. You deserve to shift. Because when you love yourself, you lower your stress, you have a higher level of empathy, and you are able to have that willingness to take risk in the good way. You don't allow fear to be your future. You don't allow fear to be something that drives you and keeps you stuck or stagnant. And so I know that that was a lot. I hope that as we chatted about this topic, as we unpacked self love, that you've been pushed to shift your thinking around it, pushed to prioritize it this year and for the rest of your life. I know that things might be difficult, but you can do it. I have no doubt in my mind that you are more than capable of showing up for yourself, loving yourself, and creating a space of self love that is nurturing and gives you everything you need to get through this day and every day, this life, to create the life that you deserve to lead. One full of self love, one full of prioritizing yourself and making sure that you're good before you go out and make sure everybody else is good and check off all the boxes at your job, right? And so, if this conversation has benefited you in any way, I really encourage you to interact, like, share, subscribe, share this with someone else, leave a review, all of the things, because I really want to know um, if it's helping you in any way. I also implore you to visit Facebook and join our private Facebook group. Pursue You does have an incredible community. I go live every week in there. We talk about different topics of the month. We have books of the month. We have journal prompts that are exclusive to the group, and it's just another way to dig a little deeper. So if you're longing for a community, if you're longing to be a part of something that's going to help you shift into your next, it's going to help you on your journey, on your pursuit, then I would love to have you there. The description has some information about how to join, or you could just go to Facebook and search Pursue and the letter U, and it should come right up. But in the meantime, guys, I hope that you will remember the importance of prioritizing yourself. And I'm going to say it like I always end all of my lives, all of my podcast episodes, because I mean it. And maybe this time you'll understand a little bit more about why I say it the way I say it. Take care of yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. All right, guys. Until next time.